Welcome everybody, week 5, Leverage Agent. All right, let's give everybody a couple of minutes. Today we are going in on the consults. We're gonna do the buyer and the listing consult, and you guys will get a copy of both of those and chat. I'll share a quick story. I was doing a buy-sell consult yesterday, and as I was getting into explaining to this person how I work and how I'm never gonna show properties, because I think setting expectations is super important, he cut me off. He's, oh, I saw a video on YouTube. Some agent interviewed you and you went through your whole process. He's, I think it's brilliant. I'm like, oh, so are we good? He's like, yeah, we're good. He's like, that's perfect. I'm like, awesome. So we blew through the whole consult and we just dove right into what we were doing. I thought that was cool. Oh, we had Al Stasik in the house. What's up, Albie? All right. So that was fun. That was fun to have a buyer be like, no, I've already watched like how you work and that's how I want to work. Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll give everybody like 2-3 minutes. Are there any wins that anybody wants to share from the last couple of weeks? Any questions that we want to get into? As I always ask, like, what's the one thing you want to learn on, like today is consult. So what are some questions that I make sure we cover? If you want to drop stuff in the chat box or just unmute yourself and ask. Like I want us to be friendly, just unmute.
I don't know if you're going to go into this. Is Grace from Toronto, by the way, and we've got this big snow blizzard. When it comes to consults, do you ever use any physical marketing materials at all? Do you ever send them like a pre-listing consult or any physical marketing materials, or is this all just done virtually?
No, that's a good question. So I do have a packet, both a buyer and a seller packet, that are very similar to my Zoom consult. And I don't always send them something, but any of our sellers, and we covered that in one of the weeks, they automatically start getting on a mailer list. They get our postcards and things like that. But I had a coach years ago, he was a Craig Proctor coach, and he would drop off his listing presentation in a FedEx package. So it looked like a sealed FedEx package, and he would just drop it off in the door. He kills it. Jay Macklin, if you ever look him up, he owns Platinum Realty out here. He's a big hitter, always wears a suit, lives in the DC ranch, like in the multi-million-dollar area. So that was his avatar, was going after million plus, and he would pull up in his suit and just drop it off on the doorstep, and he'd have a pre-listing consult. So I don't think that's a bad idea. Then he shifted to a digital one, like a thumb drive, right? But with me holding my meetings virtually, I don't send anything out. I'm not saying you don't, but I have them. I have a virtual, or I have the print one. All right, it's 11:04. Let's get going. If nobody objects, I was just gonna start with the buyer consultation. Start with the buyer first and with the listing. Maybe we're 20 minutes on each, and then leave some room for question. Any objections to that? All right, let's share screen. Yeah, let's get into the buyer. And you guys are going to get these. And if you 100% duplicate them, that's fine with me. And I'm not saying you should or the best, but if you're like, hey, I just want to take this to a virtual assistant or to WeWork or Fiverr and just say, will you just please replace this with this? Fine. Like, I love that. I saw an agent that I'm coaching and he shared on social media his buyer presentation and it was just mine, and that's awesome. Don't go rethink it if you don't want to. You have my permission to just duplicate it. Can everybody see? All right, we got my screen? Cool. All right, this is my buyer presentation. I'm always gonna pivot it to be virtual and I get very little pushback. I think people prefer that, especially with COVID. If I throw in there, like, I'm not feeling 100%, but we can get together. Do you wanna do it on Zoom? That kind of makes it easy too. People understand that. I always start with why you're moving. This is what I always want in my CRM. And I think me diving deeper on this has led to my conversion rate. Like when I look at my platforms and I look at my agents, I always out convert. And I think because I go deep on this. So I don't just say, why are you moving? I want to ask the question, what is this going to do for your family? How is this going to change your family's life? And if you were to stay in your home, why would that be so bad? I want to get into that, and I'll share my best win was really going deep on this. And if I've shared this already, just give me the grace and just don't interrupt me and let me tell it again, because I'm the guy to be like, hey, you told me that already. But I had a Army anesthesiologist who we went deep on this because I was like, why are we moving? He's like, oh, it's just time. It's just time for my kids to get a house. I'm like, all right, like why? And he's like, oh, they're just ready. We've been moving around a bunch. You know, been in the Army and they're just ready to be settled. And I was like, so what does that really mean? Like, what do you think that's going to do for them? And he really opened up and he was like, all right, so my two sons are Nathaniel and Samuel, Nate and Sam. They're my two little prophets. I know like those are biblical names. He's like, they're just my prophets. And he's like, dude, they've had bug out bags their whole like childhood. They just have ready to go bug out bags by their doors. And it kills me, right? He's probably like 35 years old, super successful. He's a doctor, right? But he's been in the Army. So I was like, dude, that's amazing. I can't wait to share in that journey. Now I could have just blown past it. So they're out looking at homes. And at this time I didn't have Shawami. I'm using my salaried showing partners, and things are going, and they're looking at homes. And then I see on Zillow that he's looking at rentals, $4,000 a month. He's looking at $900,000 homes. Now he's looking at $3,000 and $4,000 a month rentals. Oh, okay. Buzz him, just checking in. How's it going? He's like, hey man, we're switching gears. Had a long talk with my dad. This is July of 22. And maybe I've got the dates wrong. I think it's like, when did interest rates crash? When did interest rates spike? That was 22, right? Not last year. I lose track of time. So whenever interest rates really spiked for the first time, he's like, Dad, I respect him a ton. And he's like, it's a bad time to buy a house. Interest rates are super expensive. Home values are going to come down, which they did. Like in Phoenix, we crashed 12%. He was right. And I'm not just a pure salesman. At my heart, I'm here to serve God and serve others. And I love people. And I was like, I totally get it, man. He's right. Rates are high. Prices are going to come down. I said, at what point are you going to become the dad that Nate and Sam needs to get rid of that bug out bag? How much of a deal does their dad need to get before you give him that security? And I said that in love, and he started crying. It gives me, like, I get choked up, and he just bawls. And we bought a house, bought a home. And like, dad's getting in the way. Like, I got 4 daughters. I'm going to get in the way. Like, we were like, no, it doesn't make sense. The rates are coming down. But had I not really gotten deep on his real true why, what was I going to say? But I just called him out. Never met him, never saw the house. We ran into each other at the mall, and we gave like big old hug, bear hug. And he was with his parents. He's like, oh, this is my realtor. So that was one of my better wins, just knowing why it was so important to him. And if so, you guys, there's plenty of better realtors on the call than me, but that's what I preach is like, you get to know these people so well. What is the pain in their life? What is it really going to do for them? And sometimes you have to stay on this question for a while. And sometimes we sit here for 20 minutes in my consult. But now I really know what we're working towards, what their hope is, what their future promise is, the pain that they're running from. And I'm going to have to use that for their benefit, not for mine. Did I win or did he win? Now his rate doesn't seem so bad, and he's made equity. It fell 12, but now it's up. And I think his rate was at like 6, but it was no longer 2.75, it was no longer 3. So we couldn't tell the future, but I was like, dude, you're an anesthesiologist. You make the money. Is the money more important? So moving on from there, but I linger here so I can convert more people and have less conversations. Instead of just churning and churning, I'm going to go deep so I can stay with them longer. What made you choose this area? Why are you buying rather than renting? And I'm heavy on the consult, so I'm less time on the transaction, and I have less people to have to do it with. What are you going to do if you don't find a house? So I think that's important. Then we're going to go, hey, we're going to talk about your representation options. What's going on in the housing market? I'm a big believer in showing people the housing market, not telling them about it. So I pull up data and let them self-discover what's going on in the market. So when somebody tells me we're waiting for the market to crash, or it's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market, I'm just going to pull up the data and then have them tell me what they see. In one ear, out the other is what I think. And for me telling somebody on a phone call what the market's doing, I want them to see it. We're going to financing, kind of have like how to navigate the purchase process, what your ideal home looks like, and how to get started with us. So this is all about setting expectations so I can work the way I want to work. Side note, with the commission lawsuits that are out there, I'm sad I haven't even changed this yet, right? I'm going to change it, and you all should change it. It's paid by the seller at closing. That's what's going on with these lawsuits. We're just saying, oh, it's not. I'm gonna change that. You pay for my services through the seller. I think that's important. My commission is going to be somewhere between 2.5% and 3%, but know that it's not a check that you write, but it's a cost you absorb. And I think that's important. We start putting that in there. And I do say that, but it's not in writing. So I do talk about that in my consult. So I want to talk about why you want to buy a broker. I won't go too deep in this. You guys know this stuff. This slide, I highlight, hey, I want people to say, dude, it's so great working with Dave Z because of how easy he makes it. So I really hammer, oh, it's so frustrating to work with an independent agent. They got to do all of these things. And I have this team over here. And I used to talk about, hey, I used to have a bigger team. I used to have a lot of agents. Now I surround myself with 1,500 agents that open doors for you and a staff that's always working behind the scenes. and then these two lovely ladies that are here that you might be able to see face to face. So like let them know how big of an organization we have and why you're going to have such a great experience. Like you're going to see homes on demand 7 days a week because all those people in the background that you don't see, I got 1,500 of them. They all are in our staff that, however you want to phrase it. So I just say Shawami is part of our staff. They're going to open doors, but you always get me and there's a team behind me that's supporting you. So you're going to have a great experience. And then I'm going to transition into why I'm different than the average realtor. And then I'll go into an airline experience. And like, just like on an airline, there's many people doing all these different roles. I know in my 20 years, I've done it different ways. I am delivering, I think, the best experience now by having these key roles separated. So I'm gonna say, when I get on a flight, right or wrong, the first thing I do is I look in the cockpit. I'm like, cool, gray hair. It's usually gray hair, right? You don't see a lot of 20-year-olds in there. And so I'm like, that's me. I don't always wear a hat. Sometimes I do, but I got some gray in the beard. So I've been doing this 20 years. I am your pilot. I am your main point of contact. So what I want you to know, when you're working with me, you get a team, but you're going to get the most of me because I'm not doing all the other things. Just like a pilot, he knows or she knows that the drinks are being served, the plane's been fueled up, the luggage is handled, and they can just focus on what matters. And what matters to you, in my experience, is you get the best possible price, the best possible deal on the best terms. That's what I'm a master at doing. I'm a master of my craft at getting you spending the least amount of money in this market and getting all of the terms that you want. That's what I pride myself in. And then we're going to have showing partners. Those were all those people in that background on that previous slide. I've got 1,500 of them. Don't you think we can get you in a home 7 days a week? We can. Now you got to know whatever's in your market. I can say this because I'm in Scottsdale and there's 50,000 realtors, so we're competing with a lot. If you're in a smaller market, just use the numbers that's appropriate for you in Shawami. You may not even have to say how many it is. It could be dozens and dozens. So think of them as like your flight attendants. They are happy when they're in homes. And then this is where I safeguard myself against somebody running off with a Shawami agent. Like they're just not ready to fly a plane. They're not ready to negotiate. They're not ready to answer real estate questions. So while they're great and safe and they've gone through background checks, that's why they have a real estate license, you just can't rely on them for the really important stuff. And then there's Stevie. She was back here. She's on the left side of the screen, the dark hair. She is like our air traffic control. She's going to be doing all of the paperwork, contacting you with timelines, getting the repair person in there, setting up your inspections. She is managing that day to day while I can keep flying the plane. And I like to close people, and I think we all need to be closing people. So at this point in the slide, I would say, so Eric, now that you've seen all of this, is there any reason this wouldn't work for you? And can you see the benefits of working with somebody like me? And people are like, oh man, this is great. Like our last realtor was never available. And we found out they gave us to somebody that only sold 2 homes their whole career, whatever it is. But I pause here and I get buy-in. Is there any reason this wouldn't work for you? And if I never step foot in a home, but we get it all done and you're happy and we get you a great deal, will that work for you? So setting expectations, super key. Then I'm going to say, now that we're done with that, let's dive in to the specifics of your market, because I can tell you in Arizona, Apache Junction looks very different than Buckeye or Maricopa. Like they're different. So we're going to then dive into their housing market. I just have some generic slides, but what I typically will do here is go into a couple of national sites. I like to use Altos Research. I don't know if you guys have ever used that, but you can just run a report. And using third-party validation is massive. You're not hearing from a realtor. But I'll always ask them, before I get into the housing market, how would you describe the market to somebody today? And then I get to hear them say what they think about the housing market. And how often do you think it's like accurate? Like it's usually not accurate. It's usually something off a little bit. So they get to tell me their thoughts. And then now I'm reading some of the chats here. Yes, can I demonstrate market statistics? Yep. Brent's always want me to charge fees. Brent, stop it. I don't charge fees, man. I know you do, and I'm happy for you. No, I don't, but you can help me, coach me on that limiting belief. So this is where I come in for buyer stats. I'll start here at Altos because it's not Dave Z. And okay, we're looking in Chandler. So this is a national data company. We just go right into all of these numbers here. And can you see how we're a seller's market? Then what I'll do is we have the Cromford report in Arizona. I don't know your guys' markets. I have to pay for this data. It's an amazing data set where I can come in and I say, hey, this isn't free. So most realtors don't want to pay for this, but I'll come in, and we'll do a snapshot, and I will go through this data here and help them understand it and what it looks like. And that way I can disarm or disagree with them without being rude. Oh, why am I just hearing about Altos? Not sure, man. You should watch his YouTube. He does a YouTube, like they do a great job of a weekly update. They're really dialed in on their number. And then the other thing I do, it's not in every market, but the Case-Shiller Index, this is a great one. I think they only track the top 20 markets, so I can go to Phoenix. This is an S&P index. It's like a stock. It's like, I used this yesterday in my buy-sell meeting. It's like somebody owning Apple, and they're like, yeah, Apple, my stock's done, I don't know, like 8%. It's like, no, it's done 14.2. It's precisely. Like, we're not guessing. Case-Shiller is precise on data, and so I'll just send this to people. Like, they're like, we're waiting for the market to crash. And you guys are right, you chimed in, there was 22. My time compressed. So here you can see Phoenix peaked in that June, July of 22. And this is when my anesthesiologist in August was like, we're out. My dad says it's crashing. He bought in August and watched his home dip 12%, but he did it for his boys. And now, when you flash forward to today, he's about there. He's maybe lost a little bit, but his rate is better than what he would have gotten before. So you can see he's back on up. So I use these sites to let them set the narrative and not me. And then we dive deep into Cromford. Cromford for Arizona, it's amazing. It has so many good data sets, but I get into supply and demand. I get into contract ratios. I get into listing success rate, and I'll just give them some key nuggets. I learned this on a call with Fannie Mae. I think it was on a Zillow Flex call where Fannie had told us that as long as sellers are successful 65% of the time, prices go up. It's when they dip below that we start to see price compression. And I'll say Phoenix, the average is 67%. That's our historical average. We're sitting at 74%. So what do you think prices are going to do? And I just let them tell me. And then I like analogies. And I'm a sports guy, so I was like, hey, I just went to a Cubs game in September. I flew out there. I wanted to go see them. They're my team. I said, let me tell you what the Phoenix market looks like compared to going to a Cubs game. Let's say I fly out there, and I flew out with 2 people. We're going to the game. Like, we're going. We're not thinking about it. We're going. And when we get out there, and I look at these numbers here, I say, behind the metal barricades, there's 65.6 scalpers. And on this side, there's 76.9 buyers, and we're all looking at each other. And I'm going. That's why I flew out there. So it's happening. So I'm going to pay whatever it takes. And if I saw that, and if the scalpers saw it, and we could clearly see the supply and demand, scalpers are going to jack up their prices. Problem with the housing market, most consumers and most realtors don't even know how to assess the supply and demand, the absorption rate, all of that stuff. So I just said, so I'll just pose the question. What do you think would happen to me if I flew to Chicago and there were 77 buyers who were definitely going and only 65 sellers that you're going to spend more? Okay, so that's what we're looking at the housing market. Knowing that and knowing you want to get rid of your bug out bags for your boys, is this still something you want to try to do? And just let them answer. So now they've got buy-in, they can justify what they're doing, because that's what we have to do. The heart decides and then the mind justifies. So I get them back to their heart, let them decide, and then they can tell their dad why they're overspending. They can tell their friend why they're an idiot for buying right now, because they have bought into it. Cromford, for me, I can get into closings over list price. Then I can set the stage like, hey, you're gonna have to spend, there's a 14% chance you're going to spend over. And then I can drill into zip code, price points. So I get them so prepped so we're going to write winning offers. My job in this buyer consult is to groom a buyer to work the way I want them to work, to offer the way I want them to offer, because I'm going to tie it back to their goal. So if you want this, then we're going to do it this way. And I don't get friction in my offers. We don't see as many homes and we don't write as many offers because they're prepared. And I'm driving it, they're not driving it. So they are self-discovering. They're like, geez, so you're saying at my price point of $350, I have an 18% chance of going over? I'm like, yep. And in this zip code, that zip code, and oh, by the way, you're probably just gonna have to spend $5,000 over, but somebody actually spent $131,000 over. That's how crazy your competition is. Somebody spent 35 grand over in a house under 300,000. Are you ready for that craziness? And somebody spent 20 grand over in a house under 25. Wow. So that's who you're competing against. So when I do this right, they're just going to do what they're like, what do we do, Dave? What do we do? And that should be the goal of your consult, is to earn their respect, become the authority, set the expectation, then this is how we're going to work. All right, so that's it for today. Any questions on that? Do we want to pause and talk about this or keep going?
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So when you're like when you're explaining 130,000, 35,000, which is good because you're setting the table. But basically, how often have you had it where the buyer, you can realize that buyer's just not as committed as necessary to take your time?
I love that. That's a good question, Sean. I'd rather find out now than spend one more minute with them. I don't want to be so cold, but time is valuable. If you're not serious, that's okay, because if I pulled up my Sierra, I got 700 tasks that are overdue. Let me go get to them and let me serve somebody who wants to do it. Like, I had an old mentor when I out of college, I did life insurance, and he would always tell me, like, Dave, you can't turn chicken shit into chicken salad. So let's just go find the chicken salad. Like, stop trying to turn people in. So it's the same thing. Like, we're not trying to create buyers. We're just trying to find them. I want to find the motivations. I would rather bow out then than spend $500 with Xiaomi, or worse, you actually go drive around. And I think it's okay to just challenge them. It's okay if you're not ready. And let's figure that out now. That's what I would do, Sean. I don't know your thoughts, but it's a good question. But this is where I would rather cut it, because I just had to cut a listing and I spent $3,000 photo and marketing. And then finally I was like, I thought I could work with these people, but I'm out. I just had to fire them. All right, so, yo.
So quick question for you. Do you have a set number of slides or data set that you go through regardless of personality type, I'll say? DISC,
Yeah,
are you cutting it short for some people?
100%, Jerry. Good question. If they're a high D, I'm going to fly through them. I'm going to skip through, right? And I'm going to tell them it ain't going to be that long. And then I had a high D yesterday, and he was like 30 minutes. That's all we got for a buy sell. And we ended up going an hour. And I says, hey, spend 30 minutes. You want to cut it? He's like, no, please keep going. But you do have to recognize your high Ds are going to like roll their eyes at this. You're like, listen, this could be real quick, but I think it's going to be super valuable. And then I just have a 1-page sheet if it's a real high D. And it's just like that I'm going to go through. So this definitely caters to the C's and the S's. So high D, I just want to hit, I think they want to see market data, and I fly through what my team looks like. I'm like, this is my team. It's a big team, blah, blah, blah. We can get you into homes. But yeah, you got to know your audience. And I know, Jerry, you've been doing this a long time, so you know that. And if you don't know the disc profile, go learn it and know who you're talking to and cater this to them. So I'll be like, dude, I'm skipping through these. And ID's like, oh, thank you. If somebody is real hesitant to get pre-qualified, I just threw this in here, fear of finding out or fear of missing out. I'm like, I'll say, listen, you've been in our system for 3 years. You've never been pre-qualified. Can I just like state the obvious? Are you maybe afraid to find out that you don't actually qualify for a home, or it's not what you think it is? Can I just throw that out there and just give you permission to say that to you? So many people are like, yes. I'm like, isn't it interesting when people are like sick, they don't want to go to a doctor? They don't really want to find out. And I'll just say, the best thing you can do for yourself is just find out. So let's just find out and let's be okay with it. You're going to feel so much better if we just get pre-qualified. So I just thought by addressing it, I'd get it. And I do. I get more people that are open to do it. They're like, I know, I've been holding it off for 3 years. I'm like, just do it. I'm like, here's what's going to happen. We're going to get a big bullseye. We're going to know the target we need to hit. Stop wondering what you need to hit. It's not going to hurt. No one's going to shame you. No one's going to be like embarrassed. I'm like, full disclosure, I had to go through bankruptcy. Like, I had my life fall apart. And my lender at the time was like, dude, I didn't know credit score could get that low. I had 6 homes in foreclosure during the foreclosure crisis. So yeah, I got beat up. I'm like, and I came back. And it was laughable. He was like, dude, you're in the 400s. Congrats. So I throw that in there. I get a little bit vulnerable. But then I'll go through this real quickly. You have a 0% chance of getting a home on verbal pre-approval. I want to get them to fully underwritten. So I'll show them the benefit of that. Then I tell them who I want to work with. And I have my Zillow account. So they push Zillow Home Loans. So that's my tier 1. They actually are a really good lender. I'll go through this. Depending on the disc profile, do I spend time here or not? But I think it's important to go through this. I'm a big fan of the HomeLight cash offers. So I work with HomeLight and I'll say, hey, I can turn you into a cash buyer. And then we go down that road. Then I stay a little bit on here. I'm like, listen, I want you to get the cheapest home possible. I'm not here to spend your money. So where do you really want to be? Go through that. This slide is super helpful for people who've never gone through it before. And if you have, I'll just skip through. But this, I'm like, I want you to get off this call and know exactly how much money you need and when, feel comfortable with it. And what I found is like the easier I make it, the more likely they are to transact. Like I'm just making it easier for them. But this can be an hour call for sure, if you really linger on that. So adjust this to whatever you want it to be. Earnest is always, I'm surprised no matter how long people have done this, they're still confused on earnest. So I want to dive into that, talk about that. And then I do not linger here, guys. This can be like, oh gosh, I'm like, so this is our candy land, how we get to a home. Listen, we're gonna pause, we're not gonna skip through this, but I want you to see what it looks like, and I'm here to navigate all of this. This is why you need me. Once we start getting an offer and get into that, we'll revisit this, right? Though, but just know this is our timeline. I won't go through this 90% of the time, but I show it to them. I'm just showing that I'm well prepared and that they can trust me. Oh, new construction. You definitely want representation on new construction because the person that works there, he's like a car salesman for the builder. So do not go into a home without us. So make sure you put that in there just so you don't have them call you in a week. Be like, oh yeah, we went into builders. So this is where I'll throw in there. We can meet you at a builder anytime. And then again, I'll say, guys, once we're ready to write an offer, we're gonna revisit this and I wanna show you how to write a winning offer. So that's my language, and I've got an email that I'm gonna give you guys on how to write a winning offer. And I just wanna program that into their mind. We're not trying to get a deal, we're trying to get a winning offer. These are the levers that we can pull to increase our odds of being a winning offer. Again, I'll go through this when it's time to write that offer. And I'll say, just know, this is what your competitors are doing. Some of them are waiving this, waiving that, waiving this. I think anytime we can put our clients back on their heels, especially sellers, it's always better. Put your buyers back on their heels. So Dave, what do we do? I am a deal hound. I do want to get them a deal, but I don't want somebody's expectations that if they don't get a deal, they don't get a house, because that's really difficult. Then we get into, what does your perfect home look like? And I go, do you have an unlimited budget? Okay, you don't? So I go, great, if you do, you can get all three of these priorities. So I was in a mastermind in Cancun, and Leo, who is now a chief visionary officer for EXP, but he was a legend. He created a company, Remind, sold that. I think he had sold like 6,000 homes. He is just crazy good, and he spoke in our mastermind. And this was like my biggest aha of this very expensive trip, was he just drew out a triangle, and I draw this out for people. And instead of my buyers getting frustrated at me, I put it back to this triangle. I go, guys, we got to operate in this triangle. And if you don't have an unlimited budget, you're only going to pick two of these, and then the market will tell you the third. And I had a guy fly in to go see like a $2 million home. Now it was like 1.8 or something, but it was in a crappy part of town. I wouldn't live there. And he flew in, and I met him at that property, and he was like, somebody told me to avoid Phoenix, this part of Phoenix. Yeah, I don't say they're wrong. They told me I should go to Scottsdale. I'm like, cool. So I just, right there at the kitchen table, I had my little tablet, and I just drew out a triangle. I'm like, so what we're talking about is price, location, and features. So you like this home, it's on an acre, it's like 5,000 square feet, big single level, that's your features. You like the price, but you don't like the location. So let's say we put this exact house in Camelback, Scottsdale. What do you think it's gonna go for? Is it, I don't know, 4 or 5 million? I'm like, yeah. So which one do you want? He's like, let's just stay here. So that diffused it so quickly for me saying, like arguing with him and like debating, like, own it. I'm like, let's do it, it's yours. You tell me which of the two you want, and then you have the freedom to change your mind. If you change your mind, I'm not gonna get mad. You're discovering the triangle. Like when I have agents moan, they're like, oh, they can't make up their mind. I'm like, they're trying to figure out the triangle. You need to give them the framework to understand that. And then I'll just have those questions with my clients. I'm like, how's the triangle going? They're like, we're gonna have to bump up the price. So this was, for a high-level mastermind, this just blew me away. I was like, dude, I'm using this. This has been really helpful. So I'm not a salesperson. I'm like, just what do you want? And then I blame the market. So that's how we do our consults. I'm like, which two do we want to start with? And then we build it in the MLS right then and there. So I'm like, cool. So right at this point, they tell me the two that they want, and then I show them what the market dictates is the third. And they're like, perfect, that's what we want, right? So start using that framework. What does it look like? You know, we got to get moving to our seller consult, and we'll go through this. Hey, when you're out with our people, we're just going to ask you 1 to 10 where this home needs to be. Just that way we get feedback. This is our 1 to 10 rating. Where are you in this process? Are you phase 1, 2, 3, or 4? I don't want you to get to phase 4 where buyer fatigue sets in. So where do you guys think you are? And I'll let them identify, yeah, we're like phase 1. So let your buyers identify where they're at. Then we've looked at the homes that they wanted. We saw that there were some there. And then I go, great. Can I share with you? Now, you've been interviewing me. I will close them. Based on what you've seen in our interactions, is there any reason you wouldn't want to hire me today as your realtor? Always got to close that. Great. I'm so happy. I'm really looking forward to it. Can I share with you what I'm looking for in a client? Pretty simple. Nice people. I'm a big believer you tell people how you want them to behave. I want to tell my kids, you're such an amazing person. You're so nice to your sisters. Let them live up to that. I want to tell them that they're going to be nice to me and just loyal to the relationship. That's all I'm looking for. And what that looks like is our buyer broker, right? and you can cancel anytime. So I'm flexible, but this is what they look like. If we don't find a home, you don't owe me any money. Here's what's going to happen next. And then we'll go through that. Give me your mailing address. We're going to get a text thread going. I'll send you instructions. Add me in Zillow, Redfin. Let's get you started with the lender. I'm going to go through this. My staff will lead you on an educational home tour, not me. We'll set up the search site. We're going to work together to write a winning offer. We're going to work through this escrow process, close your home together. And then while you enjoy your new home, I can't wait to help your friends and your family find their next home. If we have a buy sell, I get into that. I do a buy first, a trade-in program with HomeLight. All right, that is my buyer presentation. And then I'm going to show you the email that I fire out that gives some more language in there. You'll get a copy of this. So this is the email. So let's say I was meeting with Eric. After we're done with our email, our meeting, I'm going to save a search into our CRM. Eric, per our conversation, enclosed you will find some options for your review. And then that'll just be their saved search. So it'll take them to my website with their saved search. They'll click on that. Please provide me with any feedback so I can better narrow down the search for you. Can your virtual assistant send this out? Yep. Should they be? Yep. Reminder, you can update and save as many searches as you like. Here's a quick video on setting up your search. Do I want them calling me to set up a search? I'm empowering them. So they're going to get a bomb video on how to set up your home search. It's a 3-minute video on how to set up your own search on my website. So they're going to get that. Also, below are the top 5 must-haves that we discussed in order to make an offer on your dream home. Please reply back confirming these are the needed features in your next home. And then I boldly underline this. When we find the above dream home, we'll be ready to discuss terms for writing a winning and favorable offer. Remember to schedule your showings directly on our MLS search site. Don't call me, don't text me. So Trish just put in the text back, yeah, you can ask them to be your agent on those, and then you start to get their data. Now I'm a flex agent, so try it. But I think you should be able to, I think any consumer can pick anybody that's registered on Zillow, and then you see their activity on there and it doesn't go to Zillow. So we have them do that. Remember to schedule your showings. Watch this quick video here. 2-minute video, because I want them to schedule showings and not text me screenshots, not call me, right? If they schedule it, it goes into our system and it gets handled by the virtual assistants. So this is just a 3-minute video that I walk through, like precisely how to do it. The precise language, I would like to see this. So this is the default language. I would like to see it as soon as possible. I'm like, retype it, and it'll say, I want to see it Tuesday at 2. If seller's not available at 2, then 3 or 4. And that's what my people just do. And then we get out there with very little friction. Lastly, in any event, if these change, please let me know. And boom, that's our engagement email. And when you send it out that way, they'll start working the way you told them to. That's the buyer consult. We got 20 minutes left for the seller. Any questions on this? Let's get into listing. Listing's not going to take as long because we're going to skip a lot of this stuff because we're going to reiterate a lot of this stuff. All right. On the selling, same thing. So I'm skipping this. Why are you selling? I'm going to go deep in that. What's this going to help you accomplish? What's the plan if you can't sell your home? I love that question. What do you mean it's going to sell? We'll talk about that, right? We're going to go into all this stuff. I'm going to hit heavy with data. Show the team again. This is where I'm going to spend the majority of my time, guys. This, if I'm not a car salesman, but I bought plenty of cars. I understand the 4 square. This is like a 5 square. I want to be their only solution to list their property. So I'm going to start, after I get through that, I'm going to go into, so have you ever heard, in my 20 years of doing this, it's only about 5 ways to sell your property. You know there's more than one way? There's actually 5 ways, and I do all of them. So I really want to go through this right now and understand. I want you to understand these 5 options, and I want to see which option is going to work best for you. And then this could be your whole listing presentation. You are separating yourself from everybody else, and you're going through the 5 different ways you can do it. In the print one, I have room for it just to say what you would net. So we'll just write on there, this is how much money you typically net, 92%, 75%. If I were doing this in person, and I say it on the phone, in our experience, you're going to make your walk home money is going to be about 92% of what the home sells for. That's brokerage fees, escrow fees, preparation, repairs for the buyer requests. Here are all the pros and cons. This is when you get your money. If you educate all your sellers, you'd be amazed how many different options. I just booked another price subject to that I'm going to buy off of I went through this yesterday on another selling consult, and he's got a 3.5% first. He took out a HELOC at 10%. The numbers make sense just to buy off the HELOC. He's like barely breaking even, and then I can take over a 3.5 interest rate. But because you start to get into creative options. He's like, I never even heard you could do that. I'm like, let's pay off the loan. Are you willing to let me carry your primary? So this is really, I think, what solidifies my listings. I don't have to do as much of a song and dance or that pony show of what I'll do and not do. It's like once I separate these, they're really focused on working with me. All right. Any questions on this? Do you guys want me to go deep on each of these or just leave it like this? Anybody want any feedback on any of these? Go deep. All right. So obviously we know option 1. Option 2 in Arizona, we have hedge fund buyers or what I call iBuyers. Open Door, OfferPad, Orchard, Knock, HomeLight was doing it, Zillow. I'll go into that. I work with all of them. I have a designation as an IREP. I'll just say, hey, there's no showings, no photos. You typically get your money in 30 to 45 days. It's dollar for dollar with repairs, but I'll just tell you, you're going to settle at about 75 cents on the dollar, but you're getting it like that. And then I'll pull up a lawsuit on Google. I'll go, here's the downside. Maybe you haven't heard this, but $63 million lawsuit, Open Door. They're like, what? I'm like, so the FTC fined Open Door $62 million because they just lie. They flat out lie. And they told them stop lying. If you want to go that route, here's my recommendation. Have somebody on your side. I can be on your side when they lie to you. And it's not if, it's when. This is their model. They come in super high. They give you an eye-popping number. Then they reduce it, then they reduce it, and then 2 days before close, they're like, we're going to cancel unless you reduce it. And they're going to eventually get to their number. So I'll help you know what their number is up front. But they lie. They lie so much that the FTC hit them with 62 million. And the way they did it is astounding. They would sit with people and say, your neighbor sold for 440. It actually sold for 470, and they changed the numbers. That's how bad it was. Not just, oh, we're going to give you this and end up that. They're telling you that your comps are different. So that's who you're going up against. But it does give you convenience of money. And I think we as realtors, we have to get past the fact that they're not making the most amount of money. Be okay with that. And I'll just say, what do you want? Money or convenience? You want it now? You want the most? Or you want it later? What do you value? And I value things that some people think are stupid, and I'm willing to pay money for. There's people on this call that have super expensive vehicles, where it's like, why would you spend that kind of money on a car? They value it, and they have the money. So if you have the money and you value it, you can make your own decisions. So that is option 2. Option 3, fix and flipper, wholesale. Here are all the benefits. You're going to get about 70 to 65%, probably 65% in this market. You're in and you're out. And oh, by the way, I can do that. And I'll beat anybody's offer by $5,000. Just saying, if you really want that, let's go get 20 of them, shop them to you. Unless somebody overpays you, I'll beat it by $5,000. I'll flip your house. Option 4 is a really fun one for me. It's dangerous, it's anxiety, but you can make a ton of money. I put as much as 70 grand into somebody else's house and I flipped it for them. I will do a joint venture fix and flip, and then you just charge them a lot of interest, however you want to structure it. Charge a 9% co-broke, 3 to them, 9 to me. And this gets a lot of attention. And I've done, hey, I'll give you a guaranteed check up front. Let me flip it, and then you can share in the profits. So there's some rules and some legality with novations and how you do this that you might want to investigate. But I've had a lot of fun doing this where I partner with people and say, let me flip your house for you. And I'll play on pride to be like, listen, maybe you want to impress your family. Maybe don't tell them that this happened. And when you go to list your house, they're like, dang, I didn't know that's what their house looked like. Maybe you like play on that. Some people's ego, that matters to them. So I'll say, listen, if you want to net the most amount of money, it's option 4. You're going to net about 105%. And that's where people are like, I'm interested in 105. I mean, you got to put liens on their house. You got to use a contractor. There's a lot of rules that you got to do, but that's a fun one. Option 5 is getting into creative financing. And if you're not talking creative financing, I think it's a massive fault right now. The consumer needs to hear it. They need to know that if they own a 3.5% interest rate. So it's not an ovation, Albie. You can. I actually do the work. I actually put the money in, and I don't do the novations. I got another guy on this call. He's good at novations. It's like, that's just a net listing. So what I was doing is I was partnering with HomeLight, and HomeLight would cash them out, and then I would renovate it, and then they charge like 2.6%. That was it. So here's your check at 65 cents on the dollar. We take the listing over, we renovate it. They get 100% of the difference minus a 2.6 fee in my listing. And it was great till the market started crashing. And then I had some people really get hurt. But now that the market's pretty stable, I still offer that, or I do it personally, where I basically we agree that it's worth this right now. And I'm going to put the money in. You have 6 months. If not, I'm suing you. I'm going to have to put a lien on the house. And then this is my interest, instead of charging hard money, just go to a 7%. You're gonna pay me 7%. It's like a 10% listing. But I'll put some guarantees in there to make sure that they don't lose money. But I've been able to make 3-4% extra on listings. And it's fun. I like doing the work. But yes, do that. All right, back to this. And then option 5, no, don't share this. Option 5 is just creative financing. Do you want to do a sub 2, an owner carry, an assumption? If we can go out and find you a buyer that's willing to take over your mortgage and you never get rid of your mortgage, but they give you more money, are you open to that? A lot of times, guys, it's just differentiating and you end up back at option 1. You didn't lose them to Open Door. All right, this is all the same. I go through the housing market. This one is good for me. Here are the 4 reasons homes don't sell. Because what I'm saying is it's not me. If it doesn't sell, it's not me. And I want them to agree up front. I don't want to get fired. So guys, if you hire me, here's an example of my work. These are how we market and strategy. So if you don't do these 4 things, they don't sell. And none of those are in this equation. I'm not a weak agent. Here's my resume. We're not going to be unrealistic. We're going to do marketing. And guys, what's the only reason if it doesn't sell? It's price, right? If it doesn't sell, I can go back to them and be like, remember, we did all these things, so clearly it's price. Then I want to show them how we prep for the market, why you want to do a home warranty, why we want to do staging, what my photos look like compared to the MLS, what the process looks like. And then remember, guys, I shared with you on one call, I have all of those process videos. So we have the process like in this little candy land, but then they're going to get it sent out during the process. Hey, next is this. But I want to show them we got this whole process to follow. These are real life examples of my marketing, why we put our buyers everywhere. Hey, I'm going to follow your buyer across the internet. So there's a live shot of one of my listings and you can see it got 83,000 people saw it, 49,000 got a 3-second video view or longer. Do you think that would help you sell your home if you hire me? We're going to get constant feedback. We highlight showing time. So then we get into pricing. How much do you need to sell? Give me your number. Do you have a list price in mind? How'd you come up with that price? What factors determine this? I go into this. What don't? This is all about not ruining rapport. Here are 3 different strategies we can do. I like to have them choose their own adventure. Do you want to go low? Get multiple offers. You want to price it right at appraised value. You want to go stretch. Let them decide. Okay, here's the danger. So cool. You said you wanted to go high. I'm just telling you, if you're 15% above market price, only about 10% of buyers are willing to even look at that. So let them self-discover. Okay, guys, we're going to go high. If we don't get showings, this is what we need to do. If we have no showings, we're probably 9 to 15% high. We get a little bit, we're 6 to 9. Lots of showings, probably a little bit. When we get an offer, we know we're priced right. So again, I'm building in my defense. This is how we're going to come up with our price together. And then what I do, and then counter negotiations we can use. I won't spend too much time here. What determines a winning offer? Knowing your buyer's financial strength. I can rehash what I did in the buyer presentation. Same thing. And then I think having a menu is good. I put on my marketing that I have flexible commissions. Can I share with you what I'm looking for a client? Same thing. But this is designed to close right then and there. I close without, and this is, I have in here the Home Light Buy Before You Sell program. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know if it's in your market, but I just have a minute video from Home Light. This is how you can buy and sell at the same time. So you can Google that and look at Home Light. But
you're ready to buy your next home.
That is it. I'll sign listing agreements without price. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I give them a range and then I ask them to hire me based on that range. Yeah, Sean, that's a good one. Staging in my market's like $3 to $4 grand. And I intentionally went from listings to buyers, and I used to carry 35 plus listings. And I have found buyers just to be so much easier. So if you look me up, it's far less sellers than buyers because it gives me more freedom. Like seller, I got to come up with the price. I got to get out there. We got to do staging. I got to get more people to the house. Like I'd rather do buyers. I think I just had a listing go live this morning. Our listing agreement said TBD on the price. I said, guys, you're somewhere from here to here. So to not burn rapport, I just say, I'm pretty sure you're going to sell in this range. What are you guys thinking? They're like, that's what we were thinking. Great. So this is what we offer. This is why you're hiring me. I get them to sign the listing paperwork, and then I shoot a video as to what I think the price needs to be. And then I call them and say, what did you think of the video and where do you want to list it? And then they tell me. And they're always lower than where I was thinking. So here's the listing that just went live. Pull up the CRM here. So here's my pricing video. And if you guys want a copy of that, I can send it to you. It's 18 minutes long, but I did it at 9:30. You can see 9:33 at night. I'm like, shoot, I got this listing coming. And I just go through and I make a case. I'm like an attorney making a case for where it needs to be priced. And it's all one-sided. I'm not arguing. I am laying out like an irrefutable case. And then I put the pressure on them. And then when I call them, like, what'd you think of the video? Where do you want to be? I said for these guys, 460 would be like the absolute max I would even consider. Call them. He's like, how about 440? I'm like, oh, thank you. Yep, 440, I think that's perfect. Then we talked about other things, but we were done with price like that. So what's his address? Venture Court. So I walked him through all those options, and we didn't do a fix and flip, but he staged it, did new carpet, did new paint, painted the cabinets. But we looked at all those options, 4205, 42058, and I think it turned out really well. So we got out there and we do the Zillow package. So I pay for Zillow Showing Time Plus. So they get this interactive floor plan that they can click on the dots and all that stuff. And they staged it. It was like $4,000 for stage. I think it was $3,500 for staging. Put in new carpets. So I think it'll sell right away based on what they did. So when it comes to working virtually on listings, it's a little bit harder, but what you can do, because I want to cover that, let me stop sharing my screen. To work virtual on listings, do your consults this way. And then depending on what they say, I'm going to try to get away with never going to the house by saying that, the odds of selling, that is focus first. Al, I don't know if you introduced Jay to that or who, but I learned it from Jay Kinder, and focus first is, dude, it's so good. It's such good software. So everybody should go sign up for Focus First. And if you want to know your exact odds of selling, buy this here. And between my 5 options and Focus First, it's like when I look at my numbers, I think I said on one of my calls that like 39% of my appointments close escrow. Well, it's 80% of seller appointments close escrow, not even meetings. But if I set an appointment with you as a seller, 80% chance I'm getting a paycheck because I just don't lose a lot of them. But so you can see in this video, Focus First pops up in there right there.
So most homes are not going with the pool.
So I was able to show them you have a 75% chance of selling your home. And it's just real accurate data. So back to how you do it virtually, I have sold plenty of homes virtually by saying, cool. So you're really gravitating towards, and Focus First, it's like 20, 30 bucks a month. It's pretty affordable. And I'm not sharing anymore. So no longer sharing the screen. But, and I probably didn't with Focus First. I'm sorry, that's what you're probably saying. So I'll drop in the link here. Focus First. Depending on the option that they want to pick, they're like, Dave, we are 100% going with option 2 iBuyer. I don't need to see the home, ever. Dave, we're 100% going with a fix and flipper. Great. I'm gonna have my contractor come out. I need him to take pictures and I need him to identify the cost for me to rehab this. Then I rely on that. We're 100% going with option 4. We're going to do a joint venture. Contractor needs to come out. I got to get all the pricing. They take photos and videos. We're going with option 1. We want to go retail MLS. Do you guys want to stage it? Yeah. My stager's going to come by. She's going to give me videos and photos. And as long as somebody is coming to the house, you can get away with not going to it. So just how you're going to transact it determines who's going to go see the property. Someone's had their hand up for a while, and I ignored them. But who had that hand up?
Oh, that was me. I was going to be asking you about the virtual aspect of things, like how you pull off the listing side with virtually.
Yeah. Would it be nice to have one person with the boots on the ground? Yeah, maybe you can find that in a relationship. I always say this, when people give me pushback on that, I'm like, okay, let's just say you are going on a dream vacation with your family to Europe for the first time. And a family member's, we're ready to list our home right now. Could you not figure it out and get people in to help you? I think you would. Like, you wouldn't cancel that vacation. So I think that's just my approach, is like, how are we going to do this? And so I really did that 3 years ago. I was taking a longer summer trip to Maine, and I did like 59 G's of seller commissions. And I used my showing partner at the time. I had a dedicated showing partner, and I just did these consults in Maine. I do them at 9 o'clock in Maine, 6 o'clock in local time, because I wanted my kids to go to bed. And I had an ISA at the time just booking me appointments. And I just knocked these things out. We would go down the list. Like next step is Jen's gonna swing by the house. We're gonna do all of that. I'm gonna get those, we'll get back on a call. I shot these videos, sent it over, listing paperwork signed. So Open Door, OfferPad dominate Arizona and they never come to your home. And they sell a ton of real estate. So I think it's all in our heads. I know it's all in our heads. So I did it and I'm like, I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm not going out until somebody makes me go out and then I'll make that decision. But if you tell them this is our next step, and oh, by the way, I've done this 1,400 times, other people do it too, like they're gonna be like, well, this is normal, right? I'm cool giving you another 15 minutes if we want more questions. So let's use this time for Q&A if we've got more. I'm sure we have some more. If not, we can cut it early.
How about open house? So for open houses, I know you would have talked about this before regarding you could, you have partners that you do it. Maybe like people at your office or even Shawami if you needed to.
Yep. That's what we do. I could find the audio from yesterday talking to this listing, brand new carpet, staged, new cabinets. And I was like, Kelly, I'll just let you in on a secret. Open houses are for realtors to pick up buyers. If you go Google it, you look at the NAR stats, it's about 1% of buyers actually find it through an open house. Would you prefer I have a lot of people who aren't going to buy your home traipse through your brand new carpet and get mud all over them? Or do we want to just reserve it for buyers who are like actively looking for that house? It's up to you. If you want an open house, we can do it. It's your carpet, it's your house. What do you want? He's like, yeah, let's hold off on open houses. I said, okay, but if you decide you want to do it, just know we can get people in there. And Shawami will do it. Shawami, you can book an open house for not 39, probably 49 bucks is what they want to do an open house. You get no leads. But what I have done in this method is turn all the things that I know are complaints about our industry. Like the consumer doesn't like us. Let's just be honest with that. And I don't think it's warranted. I think we have a very noble profession. I love it, but the stats are the stats. So I just take what they don't like and I push it back on every other realtor. Like realtors are there to use your home to get clients. And I'm not gonna do that to you. Like realtors are at home inspections to protect their commission. I'm not gonna do that to you. I'm gonna give you the freedom to be there alone and have privacy with the home inspector. But most agents do things to protect themselves. I'm not gonna do that. So I just try to spin things because I think there's truth in it, not saying you guys, but that's the opinion of our industry. So if there's things that are difficult for me to do that require my time, can I tie that into a dislike in the industry? Where they're like, yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know only 1% did it. And yeah, I don't want my carpets dirty. I'm like, most realtors need new clients. So instead of trying to sell your house, which I'm actively doing, I'm actively marketing this, I'm sitting in there trying to get a new buyer. But don't let me dissuade you from doing open houses. Just use other people. Yeah, Sean.
Sorry, I might have missed this before, but regarding the actual, the initial preview of a listing, right? Like where you typically would be walking through the property, giving your input. Are you completely doing that virtually, like not stepping foot in the property at all?
Yeah. Yep. So have you guys ever bought a property sent unseen yourself? Like who here has bought a home that they've never seen? I do it, right? I buy homes in Oklahoma because they're cheap. And I got a realtor down there who pitches me as Open Door. She'll go to a listing appointment. I have a cash investor. If you want a quick offer, she'll just send me pics. I'll have a home inspector go to it. They get a much better cash on cash return than we do in Phoenix. And then I got a realtor in Kansas City who called me. He's like, I got a duplex. It's $210,000. Each unit rents out for $1,200. I'm like, 200 grand for 2,400? You can't find that in Phoenix. Bought it. So I buy houses without seeing it. So I think it's okay. Like I'm comfortable with it personally with my own money, but I know I can evaluate a home without seeing it. And then I can use feedback from other people. I know I can, and I have. Show me a video. So Rocket Lister is a big company that we use out here, and I'm friends with the owner. And we talked about this. He's like, dude, just order my Express Matterport for 85 bucks. And we'll go out there and we'll Matterport it. And you guys know what the Matterport is, right? So spend $85, get a Matterport, and be like, I'm going through your home. Looks great. I can see it. So
that's really cheap. $85 for an Express Matterport. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Rocket Lister is a huge leverage for me out here. They'll get my lock boxes. Like when I talked about my closing gift being a lock box and then do it like for 30 bucks, they'll run out there and take one of my boxes, trade out the keys, go inside, make sure the keys are there. So he does 50,000 listings a year that he's doing photos of. These guys are on the road. So it's just traffic control. Sean, you're going to be there in 8 minutes. Just swing by and we can pick up an extra 30 bucks. So that's a big resource that I have for leverage. So I can send Rocket for an express Matterport to get my eyes on the property.
And that's a Phoenix specific company, right?
Yeah, they're also in Colorado. I think they're breaking into Texas. He's a big company. His name's Ryan Robeson. Ed Robeson is a self-made billionaire in this state. He built a lot of our big stuff. His stepmom just ran for governor. Like, he's a super smart dude who's made his own business, but he's built up some big companies, and his dad's a brilliant business guy. So they got a lot of resources. But I leverage him for those situations. And they're my runners. I need flyers. This guy was like, can we get flyers? My Stevie just calls Rocket Lister, print out like 50 flyers for us, bill us, and then run it down there with a flyer box. So finding vendors like that is a big part of what you can do.
I had a question for you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Regarding Xiaomi agents, how do you train them? And the second part of that question is, I know they're independent contractors, often not even with your brokerage, but I was thinking about the questions that I get from out-of-state buyers, which is the majority of my buyer clients. And I have both the blessing and the curse of putting a lot of miles on my car when I moved here 5 years ago to now familiarize myself with the entire valley, and have sold a home almost in every city now. But those questions, when they're in my car, the discovery I find are even more valuable than sometimes the buyer consult, when they start to say, what about, why is this the magic zip code, et cetera, et cetera. So in that, I know you said most of the time the response to this presentation is, how much more does this cost? Because it's such an awesome team that I'm getting on my side. But on the flip side of that, I'm wondering if those Xiaomi agents aren't answering the questions the right way, or is anything lost on this side too, as far as not being in the home?
Yeah, those are good, valid questions. So a phrase I like is, don't outsource your core competency. And I think that's what we do in our business, is we start outsourcing our core competency to ISAs, other agents. My money making is controlling the conversations and converting. And I don't want that conversation to happen at all with the Xiaomi agent. I really downplay them as just a door opener, and that's all going to come back to me. So let me just share my screen real quick again. So I'm going to program them to just be like, hey, they're here to open the door. And then as soon as you're done, call me. And so what we do, this was just a buyer that went out. Before they went and saw the house, I said, hey, property report is in your email. And what we did is we just ran a full property report for them. So just have your VAs run a property report like RPR. I don't even know this gal's email. Hold on. Oh, I think it's sent directly from them. I think it came to me. Let's see, what home was she showing? Oh, Whitman. But Jerry, to answer the question is, you want to have those conversations, and you want to be, that's the whole point, is like, I'm the pilot, refer those back to me, and I'm an expert on those. She is not an expert. So, hi, Janine Hester, Dave generated this report for you. And so I gave her an 80-page report on the one property she was going to go see with all of those questions. And then that's in your email. You're going to go see the home, and then let's get together when you're done with it. That's how I handle it, is, what did you think about the property? What are specific questions you have? What do you want me to go find out a little bit more about? What can I go ask the listing agent for? That's my core competency versus trying to train a Xiaomi agent, right? And that's where I'm going to convert.
When you and I talked about this before too, you said that you actually instruct the Xiaomi agents to ask them. Yeah. Do you want me to stay outside, or do you want me to, tour the home with you? But you're telling them, hey, direct all the questions back to me.
Yeah. When we set up that airline analogy, ask the ticketing booths about tickets, ask your flight attendant for this, but just everyone stay in their lane. I want to paint them in the picture of incompetency. Like, they're just not ready to fly a plane yet. They're going to mess this portion up, and I would never hand you off to somebody who would mess it up. So they're there to open the door, and then you're going to bring it back to me. Now, listen, I'm super rigid on this because I can afford to be. And that's the choice I've made. If you need to go to the property to save some of the deals, go, right? Go. Be like if you're getting friction in your consultation, figure out what they want, right? I think that compromise is, so Jerry, is it okay if I never go to any homes except the one you want to buy? And then when you find that one, then I'll drive out there? Do it. You know what I mean? Like, think of how much time you'll save if you only go to the homes that you're going to write offers on. It's a tremendous amount of time. And maybe you just start with that, right? But I'm all in because I've just drawn the line and I'm going to work the way I want to work. And I always, my rebuttal is if you're getting too many of those, then you don't have enough people to talk to. And go talk to more people. But I get it. And so I would never tell somebody to lose a deal, and phrase it the way you're most comfortable and see how much time you get back in the day if you just outsource half your showings. That's a good question, Jerry. But for me, they don't answer questions. They open doors. Shane, what's up?
Hey, thanks for another great session today.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was valuable.
Just a quick tech sidebar. You're using Google Slides for all the presentations?
Yeah, everything's in my Google Drive. Everything's in my G Drive. Yep.
The RPR report that you generated, is that, you do that when a buyer decides that's the house they want to write an offer on?
No, you can do them. It takes 2 seconds to generate. And you can do like a buyer tour. So you can just do that every single time. That's something your virtual assistant can do. Like, you're going to go see 6 houses today. You got to report on all 6 properties in there.
So that's what I'm saying. You do that extent of a report for every single property that your buyers are going to.
We're starting to, because, or Cloud CMA is a good one. I couldn't get mine to work the other day. So that's why I had to go to RPR. It just would not load any details. So maybe I did something wrong. But that specific buyer, I'm learning, guys. Like, I've only been running this model for 18 months. And she said, this is why we sent it. So it's valid. She's the only one that's done this to me. But she's like, can you make sure this girl knows what she's talking about next time? I'm like, okay. It's just what you brought up, Jerry. And I had a reminder. Remember, they're just there to open the door. So I'm going to have all you want to know about the property is already in your email. But that was in response to her saying, can this girl know what she's talking about? Now, here's the thing. I've never done a consult with this woman. She won't meet with me, won't talk on the phone. So this is me going to Vegas and betting $39 a door that I'm going to get paid 15 grand. But she's not willing to meet with me. So that's fine. I'm taking that risk. Like, to me, it's the best bet I can make. At some point, she's going to run and write an offer, and I'm spending 39 bucks here or there. No big deal. But that's why she was like, your staff doesn't know what they're talking about because she won't do a consult with me. But I'm making that choice to just send her out anyways.
Is the RPR report, is that a specific template that you created and set up, or is it just?
RPR is just a site. Do we all have?
I know RPR. Was wondering. It's interesting how you're utilizing it. I've never used it in this manner to just give.
Yeah, you can.
RPR reports for 6 home tours, because normally when we send home tour information and say this is how the tour is going to go, it's usually the client short in our MLS.
Yeah, so that might be a good one to use. I'm not married to it. I actually tried to do, as Ryan suggested, do Cloud CMA. It was just not working for me. It was giving me no data, so I got to look into that. I would normally just do Cloud CMA.
Yeah, I have Cloud CMA too. I haven't used it for this, but I will check that out today.
Yeah.
See what that looks like.
Good questions. Grace, what's going on?
It's going. I just have a question about the percentage of buyers and sellers that you work with, and even from that, what types are they? Because I know you had mentioned that there are, because it sounds like with buyers would you say that a lot of them are more investors and more seasoned buyers versus first-time home buyers? And then when it comes to the sellers, are they more, who are they? Because there's some people that really just want to go with you and want to be held by their hand. What would you say your makeup is for both of those? Would you say you work with buyers and you do sellers?
Let me just go into CSU, which is my data that tracks everything. In 2021, I did 128 units, 88 were buyers, 40 were listings. And let's look at last year. Now, breaking down that data might be a little bit harder for me to know who's who. I can tell you, I run more strangers than people I know. So I started unloading my team. So last year, 76 units, and I did 44 buyers, 28 listings. And that's when I first started being more solo. And so I chose to go more of the buyer route. And honestly, a lot of my buyers are sellers. This seller that I just put on the market, I just helped them buy a home in January. So they started out as a buyer, then they had a home to sell. So I stopped going heavy listing advertised. That was my whole career, was advertised for listings. And I just found I make about $2,500 more with a buyer. So it's just money for me. Make $2,500 more, less mental gymnastics. Like, I delayed comping that home till 9:30 at night. I'm like, dang, I gotta go comp this thing. It's hard, right? The pressure. And I was like, I'd rather just offer. But to go through that 20-minute video, like, I delayed, I procrastinated. I was like, dude, it's 9:30. I gotta man up and do this. So I just made the decision to go more higher buyers, and they're a mix. Like it's not one target of people, and it's more strangers than repeat business. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to know more of a breakdown, how many of them are, because I find that sometimes, say, for example, with first-time home buyers, they want you there holding their hand, whereas there are some investors who don't care, they're just looking at the numbers. So how, like, who is your main?
My first-time home
who do you like
buyers,
working the most?
my first-time home buyers love my process. They do. And maybe it's just because I sell it so I'm so enthusiastic. Dirty secret, a few years ago, I'd have handed you off to a brand new person. They're like, I know, I'm a first, so you're gonna get me, but this is what it looks like to get me. And they're like, oh, that makes sense. Same thing. I say what's bad about our industry to benefit me. 5 years ago, true story, I'd have handed you to a brand new realtor. Not now. You're getting $500 million of home sales and on-demand showings for same price. They love it. How many of your buyers have a home to sell? Do you track this? I wonder if it's tracked in Sisu. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I'm sure we can. I'm sure I can just do transaction count and divide that by actual people. But I don't, it's not readily apparent in Sisu, but I could pull that up. Last question is 12:20. I got to get to a meeting here pretty soon. Last question. Let's do it. Sean, you got your hand up?
Yeah, is there a dollar threshold? Let's say you have a client that's looking for a $5 million property. So you're not handling them any different?
No. Now, we just lost him, not because of our service, but we had Jeff Bezos, like right-hand man, wrote an offer on $6 million, two $6 million homes. And he gets it. He like works directly with Jeff Bezos. Jeff moved to Florida, so Drew's gonna move to friggin' Florida. And we lost out. And he was a Zillow lead. But we're like, $6 million. And when you explain that to a high-level business person, you're like, we'll get you in there, but when you're ready, obviously we went out at that point. But we're like, is it cool if somebody else opens the door? He's like, that's how my world works. Other people do stuff for me. So I think the higher level they get, the more they understand it and appreciate it. But yeah, we had no problem using Shawami during the process, and the listing agent is required to be there at all of those in Phoenix. So at 6 million, they got to show up. And here's the thing, we had a similar experience, and I had an agent who's selling my team. We had close to the same price point. They didn't buy either. And she wouldn't do Shawami. I'm like, not only did they not buy, but these were all day events for you, and they still didn't buy. Lesson learned. Like you spent all your time and it didn't come true. So I think there's even more reason not to do it. But that one, I would say, hey, this is what's going to look like until we find the one. And I think people respect that. Check your email later today. You'll get the buyer presentation, the seller presentation. You'll get that buyer email template of how to engage your buyer. I don't have one for a seller because that one's let's sign the listing agreement, but you'll have that buyer engagement. But there's not a lot of SOPs. It's basically the agreement. Next week's our final week. We're going to go over going back through how to get repeat clients and referrals. I'm going to rip off a buddy's process because he kills it on it. He gave me permission. That's not my strong suit, but we're implementing it and I'm seeing some benefits. So if you're okay hearing a presentation from me on my buddy who he kills past clients. So I'm gonna just give you his entire book of business on how to do that. Now, his book of business, his playbook on how to get past clients and repeat business, but that's not my specialty, but I think it's valuable that we talk about it. So that's what we'll do next week. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the comments. I will see you all next week.